Now, good morning, it's Sunday morning. Oh my God. Oh, your God too. This is Art of Rock. We're doing this every Saturday at this time on this Bat channel to educate and to inspire, I guess. Keep an eye on Angelspit's Twitch, which is there, from whence we shall be launching our Dominion. Everyone's Dominion. This is made possible with Angelspit's Patreon. Many of the members are here. You keep me going. I'm going to try and keep you going. We keep each other going. Fuck yeah. Angelspit's new album, Diesel's Priest, is out and offending people. And we just dropped a new single called Stand in Line. And you can go get it there. Angelspit also recently dropped an album called Glass Jar. And it's experimental long-form stuff with awesomeness and craziness. And go check that shit out. And if you want more shit, check out a whole bunch of bands you need to know about. And that's them on Spotify. And go listen to them and pick a band and keep them in your playlist and get addicted to that band. And if you want it non-stop, 24/7, you need MTV TV. Your new favorite band is waiting for you on MTV TV. I always say that, but I mean it. Every time you watch it, you go, wow, who the fuck is this band? So watch them on Twitch. And if you're in a band, email them and they'll play your video. And if you got a couple of bits of change laying around, throw it at their Patreon. Because we got to keep them going. Your mic's alive. Good morning, one. Good morning, all. I have a question, and it's a hard question. When do you give up? When do you throw in the towel?
Never.
All right, I want to discuss this. When do you go after all the research, the banging your head against the wall? When do you say, this is not working? And then what do you do? So the first question is, at what point do you say this isn't working?
When it still sounds like shit.
I'm talking about the project. Yeah, Resi, go.
Kind of prompted to answer a question with a question, and that's absent the ability to self-crit, how do you find your group of people who are going to be honest and brutal when you need it to sort of inform that it's time to give this up or take it back to the drawing board, change it radically? Quit isn't necessarily in the lexicon, I guess, with artists of a certain age who have proven to not want to give up. But at least two phases in my life, I've found different groups of people who are committed to the quality of the project and not your feelings, and found ways to get guidance and advice that take the project from maybe this isn't as good as it could be to here's some parameters to bring your skills to bear on making it better. How do you find those people?
Oh, wow. Jump in. The answer to that question is, for me at least, it's incredibly difficult because there's something going on inside your brain and you can hear it. No one else can hear it. So trying to find other people who are on the page, for me, has been almost impossible because everybody's going to come at it with their own, I want to take it in this direction. I want to take it in this direction. Oh, man, you really need to be more metal. No, man, every fucking time, careful what I say here, I've got somebody else involved in Angelspit. It's gone in a direction that I've gone like, no, pull it back. In fact, the only person that I've really enjoyed who could really fucking tell me was actually Alan, who co-produced Hello, My Name Is. And his advice was, fuck everyone else. They have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Everybody is either make it more guitar or make it more synth. You're this brutal fucking mixture of both, and only you know how to do that. And ever since, it's always been pulling off this way or pulling off that way. So I'm going to shut up. Ivan, what do you got?
vast majority of my projects have been in software systems, tech stuff. And, the same shaped problems still show up there. I worked at a startup that was writing an AI engine that would scrape Twitter and discover when new news was appearing. So natural language processing. And the harder the problem is, the more likely it is that you're gonna, not succeed. So like, I mean, there's a whole heads down, we're gonna make this work. I've done plenty of projects where I didn't know I was supposed to fail and therefore I succeeded. Particularly back in the olden days when nobody was, like encrypting traffic across like VPNs on the internet. Nobody was doing that, and I made it work. And so there's a couple of things. One, don't ever surround yourself by yes men. So, people that are just gonna be like, yeah, you're right, regardless of how wrong you are, because those people are never operating to your advantage. Great, perfect timing here. They're never operating, to your advantage, and then do you have a clear understanding of what your expectations are? And did apply the same kind of project management principles that you would to a software project. Don't creep. Because Carl, I think when people quite often you're going to discover when people are trying to be like move your sound outside of what you sound like, they're doing it via creep.
What does creep mean? Passive aggressive?
No, it means adding features to a project after the project's definition has already been established. Like, oh, we should do this too. Oh, we should do this too. Oh, we should do this too. And then the project never ends because you keep adding reasons for it to not end.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. Rob, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's an interesting question because I don't think people normally think enough about it. And the reason for that is because they forget that time is money. And so if you're going to define a project, there's going to be some constraints that you want to bound yourself to. Maybe there is a go, no-go milestone where you say, if I don't get this part of it done by this date, I really should reconsider the project and pull out because I'm not going to meet my deadline, or I'm not going to get my release date, or I'm not going to get the quality that I want, in time. So there's the time issue. Then there is the performance quality parameters and how you measure those. And maybe it's breaking it down into instruments. Maybe you say, am I good with the drum beat? Am I good with the bass line? Am I good with the lead? Am I good with the vocals? Are each of those up to scratch? If yes, then step 2, or next stage. If you don't manage it, and like Razi said, if you allow shit to creep in, you're going to get out of control. You're going to spiral out of control because you'll get muddy, you'll get collisions, you'll get a lot going on in the mix that's going to be more painful to fix later on. So keeping it simple, keeping it achievable, maybe that's a good approach. I say maybe because you don't want to get too clinical because you might start losing the art. And, maybe the lyrics are the problem. Maybe they're not the problem. Maybe it's getting the right riff that makes you happy. Maybe that's the problem. If you can't get the right riff by a certain time to really hook your audience, maybe you've got to park that project and move on to track number 2. That's just my thoughts.
And thank you. Razi, and I'm going to go after you, Ivan.
It's funny that like Nashville and Silicon Valley sort of have that figured out as far as small project management, to successfully deliver a widget, where like solo artists, creators, kind of don't necessarily have that figured out. It's a hard skill to master, like being able to tell somebody why you think an element of it isn't working and still have a solution to explain what you might change to make it work in your mind, and have a relationship where they can take that advice knowing your personality and what you bring to bear on it. Like that's a long-term relationship kind of thing, and to jump into projects where you just establish the bona fides and understand what the person means when they say they don't like it and this would improve it. That's the elusive part. But having like a clearer goal, I think, is sort of one of the things we're circling around. Knowing to kill a project when it is diverging from the goal and not, getting on a trajectory where it looks like it's going to ever reach it. Like there's probably some sort of mathematical curve that means it's not salvageable, and you're, accelerating away from your goal of super killer mix, awesome lyric, and, meets a certain anger versus poignancy component. Like, this is just off the rails. It's time to definitely put this on a shelf and call it quit. I don't think I have a lot of experience doing that. I sort of stick to refining, instead of giving up. But maybe that brings us back to the actual question of quit versus when.
And just before I throw it to you, Ivan, I think that's one of the reasons I don't like giving people advice. If people say, "What do you think about my track?" I am going to tell them heaps of encouraging things. Keep going, because I don't know what it is they hear in their head. Your opinion that's all you got. That's your one thing, your opinion on the mix, your opinion on your choices, on the bass line, on the lyrics, all of that shit. Yes.
Yeah, as solo artists, that's a really serious.
Yeah, and the whole world is a solo artist now, and the thing about it is that you can't, people always give me tracks. What do you think? And it's like, it doesn't matter what I think. I can sit back and go, okay, well, you've got a decent bass line. Actually, it's a bass line going dung, 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 and that's crap. You've got a beat that's going boot, and that's boring. And you've got vocals that are going na 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 na, and that's awful. But 2 weeks later, it's going to be played on every fucking dance floor in the United States. So I don't know. Ivan, and hopefully you're seeing my frustration here, because there's a galaxy that I'm about to drop on you. Ivan, save me.
Trusted ears. Have those people around you that you do trust their opinions a lot, like high valued opinions. And you're right, Carl. This is still their opinions. But sometimes having a little bit of feedback can go a long way. Also, again, I'm going to go with, I'm going to just go back to the whole don't be surrounded by yes men. I used to work for Midway Games. Pac-Man, Defender, Mortal Kombat, recognizable names. Every about twice a year, they would do a executive review of the projects that were currently taking place, and things would either get greenlit to go further on, or they would just get stopped. And towards the end of the time that I was there, I'd started to complain that the folks at exec review were so busy, just giving everything thumbs up to each other, that they couldn't differentiate between a crap game and a good game. And so, not fun, not sellable stuff got made. At which point, it's sold via luck. Merely point out that, Narc 2 was not a good game. Also, I keep my Freaky Flyers poster up on the wall to remind myself to not make crap.
Thank you. That's interesting because I've got a bunch of photos. I have to put them back up. About 2 albums ago, I had a call out to send me a photo of your workspace where you work. And everybody, I got, not everybody, but, you know, quite a few photos of very sad, drab, grey cubicles with people's, you know, photos and stuff on them. And that was this constant reminder for me to, A, work harder. Because I used to work in one of them, but I couldn't put photos up and I nearly killed myself, literally. And B, these are the people who I am empowering. That they're listening to this music and the music is getting them out of this fucking grey space. So here's something I want to throw back into to kind of direct this a bit. Let's say you're in a band. And you've been doing this for 5 years. And I'm going to pick 5 years because most small businesses take 5 years to go from I'm running at a loss to now I'm breaking even. 5 years. And you're not hitting the mark. And that mark might be, I can't even get a gig in my town. I have under X people listening to me on Spotify every month. I have under X people following me on social medias. Da-da-da-da-da-da. DJs aren't playing my shit. And let's just say, because like everybody goes, oh, I'm a musician and I don't care and it's a hobby. And yeah, although I personally believe that a lot of those people don't actually think that. A lot of people want to get hurt. You want your track to be destroying dance floors. You want people listening to it. Most people. So I'm going to talk about the most musicians. At what point do you say, you know what? This shit isn't working. People are not eating the soup that I'm making. I think it's really cool soup, but people aren't eating it. When do you get to that point? The second question is, what do you do about it? And I'll just fling back for a minute, like, you know, as far as finding people who, like, all right, one of the few people who I will say give comment about is the Gossicles, is Brian from the Gossicles. I won't comment on Gasoline Invertebrate because I don't understand it well enough. I've toured with the Gossicles 2 or 3 times. Brian's been my closest friend for like 10 years. And I understand his brain. I understand his market. And because I've seen it. And I've understood the ethos behind it. So I feel I can comment. And if he asks me for lyrics, I know what he's after. I understand the stream. And there are very, very few people who I feel the same way towards with Angelspit because they understand the stream. Like what you guys were talking about, this creep thing. It's so amazingly difficult to find people because the last thing in the world, I don't want to know what you think. I want to know I probably do want to know what you guys think because most likely you guys have got Angelspit albums on your in your collection and you are familiar with Angelspit. So if I say, I don't know what I'm doing here, you can go, well, I'm referencing that album or that album, that Angelspit album or that Angelspit album. I'm not referencing all of these other bands similar to Angelspit or my band or what I want to hear from, or I always wish you guys did this. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? That finding people who don't have the creep and finding people who can say, get inside your head and liberate your mind and go take a fucking walk. That's what you need to do. You need to put the song down for a week, go for a walk, come back to it. Because everything's here. There's a mountain. There's gold in the mountain. There's diamonds in the mountain. Keep digging. It's in there. Keep going. Try digging in that area and get rid of the top. But it's there. So you've been in a band for 5 years and it's not taking. And let's just say you don't have the luxury of people who understand what you are trying to do, because it's not taking. What do you do? How do you know? What do you do? What is the point where you go, you know what, either I have to drastically change this thing or I start something totally different and put it in the bin? Reza, you can answer that or not, but the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think that's when you try to find some of the negative criticism. You try to find out that people truly don't like it, because for me anyway, I suspect for a lot of other people, there's this dream that there's still 1,000 more people next week. There's still 10,000 more people next year that are going to come into the fold, that'll discover, or, you know, you'll successfully promote to and become lifelong fans. So giving up doesn't easily fit in with that plan. You know, when there's more to discover, there's uncharted territories to go into. So, you know, maybe there's the necessity of finding true negative criticism that you can trust, knowing, you know, that you can give up. And one of the things that Ivan brought up, in the game world, the software development and gaming, there's the playtesting phase. Like, is this fun? You know, if everybody hates it and nobody finishes the game and gets stuck on things, you know, like that's a really strong indication and a good phase of the project development that we sort of lack in music. I mean, I used to be able to go into the club and bring your portable DAT machine and hook it up and see which 3 people didn't. Well, all, you know, 100 people leave the dance floor and 3 stay. You might have an idea of something. I've lost that connection personally a long time ago. I don't know, especially the past couple of years, I think even more so, but it's that much harder to get a direct reaction in the song version of play testing, like crowd reaction. How does this work? And without touring, it's even worse. So those may be some of the places to get the answers, you know, the human reaction from the wisdom of crowds and plus from the trusted ears set. And then there was one other angle on that. No, I think that pretty much covers it. Those are the 2 things that I wanted to talk back to.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Remind me to talk about Skinny Puppy after this. Alex.
To be fair, I never got into this because I want to be successful, just because I needed to do it. It's like, it was something that I like to do and I just did it. Of course, if I had like Trent Reznor levels of success, I would take it, obviously. But honestly, if I now had like 2 other people to jam, that would be great. I would love it, even if we never had a gig. I'm really missed that, and I'm struggling to find those people here again. Yeah, I think for me, I don't want to be successful. I just want to have an outlet. That's my biggest. For me, that's the biggest thing. So I don't have great ambitions of becoming a professional musician.
Okay. Thank you. So I've mentioned this before, like Damage was he was doing this deep dive into bulletin boards, industrial bulletin boards from the late 80s, early 90s. And he found all of this stuff. He sent me these text pads, huge text pads. And I went through and I was just looking at them and I noticed people were commenting on Skinny Puppy. And they were saying things like, I don't know, can I mention Skinny Puppy here? On a late 80s, early 90s industrial bulletin board. I personally think there's no other better place in the world to talk about Skinny Puppy. But it was curious that even then, people were saying, oh, don't talk about Skinny Puppy here. Where it's only Front 242, and Jesus, shit's changed so much, hasn't it? Kidding. But the point being is that, because Rob brought up a really good thing here in the comments, like, is a declining fan base. But the problem is that what metric are you using to do that? Like, are you using Facebook, which is a declining... Facebook is massively in decline. And, you know, increasingly, you will be not in decline. You know, your target audience, really, it's males between 25 and 50. Really, and they don't watch TikTok for dancing and dumb shit. They don't. So, because, you know, that's the industrial market. 50 to 60% male, 40% female, you know. So I guess I really don't know. Rezi, go.
Between what Alex and Carl are saying, I see this like we're still talking about not giving up because you want to do it. We're not finding this yes quit moment. And a lot of what we're talking about is being true to what you want to get out of it, for sure, but also the efforts to keep up your PR and marketing chops, so that you know that Facebook is declining by 10%, my fan base declined by only 9, so therefore I'm actually gaining, like things like that are just not your favorite thing to do when writing an angry lyric. But again, don't quit, because there's so many PR angles to figure out to reach your audience, and you want to do it anyway.
Okay, cool. Does anybody else want to put in here? Because this is really important, and most people face this every week, and that's why I want to talk about this. That sometimes it's no, you got a bad review, or somebody just said something, or fucking something, or maybe it is that you've been banging your head against a wall for so long that I mean, like, if you really are doing this because you don't care about the audience and you're just doing it for yourself in therapy, why the fuck are you getting so depressed and sad when people don't like your music? Or when enough people aren't liking your music, which to me is an indication that you want people to like your music. I don't understand where the need to write music is in the whole fundamentalist of human being is. Is it a part of my inner leader wanting to, or my inner religious cult leader who wants to preach and convert to people? I don't understand where it comes from. And if you want to put your fucking hand up, because here's Rose. Welcome, Rose. I don't understand where this drive comes from within the primitive human. I don't understand. Is it like there's evidence to suggest that it's a part of the religious ritual? Put your hand up, Rizzy. Jesus. It's part of the religious ritual, and so therefore, am I feeling sad because I'm losing contact with God, or the children of God? Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? I know I'm really masturbating a lot right now, but I'm trying to figure out what is the engine that says I need people to hear my music. And it's something greater than arrogance. It's something greater than fucking being, having a God complex. Alex, help me.
I sort of forgot what I wanted to say. Maybe I'll just go back into it later.
All right, throw your hand up when you're ready. Ivan.
Yeah, the whole, where does creativity come from? Where does music come from? What's the drive? That's a question that, like, David Sylvian's been exploring for the better part of the last 30 years. And I don't know, he's retiring from music, and I don't know if he's answered the question yet. And he's really good at asking that question and trying to figure, he's gonna be David Sylvian about that. So maybe we just need to keep asking, keep exploring it, trying to find it.
Maybe his question is forbidden.
Well, it could be.
That was a horrible joke, man. That was really bad. I'm sorry. I deserve to be kicked in the teeth for that. If I sang it, it would have been better. That was terrible. I'm sorry. Thank you. Was there anything else you wanted to answer? I mean, throw in there? All right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's as big as I can get right now.
Resi, and you can't get bigger than David Sylvian. Because, yeah. I won't even say that joke. Resi.
There's a strong selective pressure for entrainment and working in groups, and as a evolutionary advantage to passing on our genes, rock and roll is a pretty strong trait. You know, like being a person who gets groups together to do the same thing is part of what we have a unique way of doing it as humans, using speech and music, and those are so closely related that, you know, it doesn't feel surprising or you know, bewildering that some people have a really inexplicable, deep-seated drive to just do that. You know, I think that is part of what has made our species go around the planet and thrive in so many different kinds of environments, and it's one of the kind of unique ways that group animals work. And music and creativity is tied pretty directly into that, with religion and group leading and entrainment. So I think it makes sense that it's not a logical feeling, and that knowing when to quit doesn't necessarily come up.
Cool. This is interesting because I think we're getting into something really interesting here. Brandon, fill my mind.
So close, Braden.
I'll get it one day. I'm sorry, man. That's rude of me. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think personally, if we're not making music to become famous or pay our bills or whatever, I think it's art generally for me is just about connecting in some way. Even if that person may completely misinterpret whatever it is that you've made, but that's kind of what it's for. Once you release it, it's, then it belongs to the listener in a way. But somebody's getting something from it. And I think that drives a lot of things. When you see or something that resonates with you, and they can have just such an enormous impact. Be it a film, song, or painting, or whatever. So that's trying to remember where exactly I was headed with that, but I think it was just mostly about the connection and the community, so to speak, that's built through that, even if you're not all gathering together in the same place. But if it's resonating, if you get a reaction out of somebody, and hopefully it's positive, makes them want to dance around and hug each other, and not the opposite. But that's really all I had, I think.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Yes, I remember what I wanted to say. I think it's something like processing your own emotions or like your own experience, and I think that really tends to help. And also there's, like, as you said, this community aspect, that you have a way to relate to other people and to have a common experience. And also I think when to give up. I think if you aren't feeling it for a long time, it's okay to do something else. I don't know how it is if you're a professional musician, but if you're just doing it for fun, I think there's no shame in just saying, okay, I'm putting it down. Maybe I will pick it up in 5 years or so, but or maybe you will stay in music but do a completely different thing, a completely different genre, a different instrument, whatever. I think that's also completely fine. And I think sometimes people who do that come back like a phoenix, stronger in their original thing. Like, I think sometimes comeback albums are like really special, especially after a long time.
Okay, that's great. Thank you all. If anybody else has anything else they want to throw in, or another question or anything like that, because this can keep going, and I really am interested in exploring this, because this is talking about when you are at the bottom. Wow, there's so much further I can go down, Alex. And we're trying to help people not do that path. Alex.
I have a question regarding basses, if anyone can answer. I'm thinking about tuning my electric bass to C standard, and I wanted to ask whether that's a good idea, whether it will still sound good, even if it's not like in combination with guitars, and maybe what kind of strings I should use and so on.
Anybody? Hold on. Rob's got his hand up. Rob, do you want to go first?
I had a question from the follow-on from the previous topic, and
Okay.
I'll just ask it now quickly, and you can pause me. But I was actually interested to know from Rose, because she's been performing for so long, what are the highs and lows of keeping her music going? Because I think that experience is pretty important to know about.
Okay, what I want to do is I want to put that in a bubble. I want to... Rezi, did you want to answer Alex? Great. Then I want to fling back to this one. Go.
Quickly, as long as you increase the tension of the strings by using a heavier gauge, you'll get a similar performance. They'll be harder to play, but there is D'Addario has a formula for guitar gauges versus tension versus tuning, and I've written out charts for all of my various really low tunings to keep it from getting too floppy. And there's limits, obviously, but it's a good start. I think it's I'll look up the gauge calculator. I think it's D'Addario has it though.
Boom. Okay. Thank you. That's amazing. Rob, we'll throw back. Rose, if you want to answer Rob's question about how you keep going, or facing the money and going, this isn't working anymore, because all of us have been in brands that are broken up. So
yeah, I I have a pretty good perspective because I've done this for a long time, like Rob was saying, and I had an act that I performed with for 13 years, and then we broke up, and it was really hard on me because it was like a relationship breakup. It was just as devastating. It was just as bad. And I had to take a break for a while. So I do think that, like Alex was saying, that sometimes we end up in that situation where, we need to distance ourselves for a second because it's too much. Like for me, I was a little traumatized. I had some PTSD from that situation that I was in, and it wasn't really as much the band, but as I actually was breaking up an actual relationship as well, and it was just, it was crazy because I was like, I can't even listen to my own music because it keeps reminding me of this person, you know what I mean? And I instead of getting the joy that I got out of it, I had like all of this like fear and anxiety and stuff, attached to that person that I wrote that music with, and I'm happy to say that after a while of pursuing other passions, that I had to come back to music. And I always tell people, I don't make music because I'm expecting like a whole lot of money from it or whatever. I mean, that would be wonderful. I mean, that's the goal. But at the same time, I've been doing it long enough to know that it's not, the monetary gain is not the real motivator behind it. I make music because I can't not make music. And sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a curse. Because I feel like it would be easier. You know what I mean? Like I sometimes wonder what it would be like to be like a normal person that could, just like do a normal job and feel satisfied from that. You know what I mean? And that would be enough, I'm a performer. I like to perform. I like to be on stage. I get a lot out of that. And You know, for
So
me,
passion was the motivator.
yeah,
So
passion was the
when you
motivator.
forced to lose the passion or the passion dies, you have to move on, take
Yeah,
a break. Yeah,
yeah,
okay. Cool.
yeah. You take a break, you recoup, you do whatever you need to do to get your mind back in the right headspace. And some people come back like I did, and some people just that's it, that's over. You know, that era is over for them. You know, and both things are okay. You know what I mean? It doesn't make them less of a person just because, you know, like it's not like they gave up. You know, this isn't an easy path to take. Um, but it is satisfying in a special way that I really have never, even with all the circus stuff that I've done, as much as I love it, it's not to me as satisfying as playing in a little grimy ass dive bar for like 20 people. You know, like there's something about that. There's something about that connection that is very it's very intimate. You know, you're bearing your heart and you're bearing, you know, the product of all of you, you know, together, working together to create this thing. You know what I mean? So you're showing your relationship with these other people to a bunch of other people. You know what I mean? It's very intimate, you know, like it's the closest I could get to showing you my actual heart, you know?
So you got to be honest with yourself about what your passion is and what's driving you to create and perform.
If you're not, that's when you end up with the situations like I was just seeing this thing and it was talking about Bon Jovi, and apparently his current tour is like, you know, not going so well because his vocals are shot, you know, and similar stuff about like Motley Crue and stuff like that, you know, like these guys are like they need to just put it away, you know what I mean?
And if you're only doing it for the dollar, then you're a slave to the dollar.
Yeah,
that's pretty depressing if you think about it that way.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like I write the music that I write because I like it, and I would not want to be in a situation like that pop stars are in. You know what I mean? Like I could see the comfort in that in a way, like having this whole team of people to help build you into this perfect being of, you know what I mean, musical might that like, you know, is just irresistible to people. I can understand that, you know, because it's really hard when you're on your own and you have to constantly motivate yourself and you have to constantly like be the one to figure out and learn all of these things about marketing, about doing your makeup, about how to perform on stage, about how to write music, about how to record that music. You know what I mean? It's like being that one person army is so hard sometimes. And, you know, it feels like, you know, why am I doing this? You know, why can't I just take this easier path and just, you know, be a normal person and forget about it, you know? And, you know, that's just the difference between a person that's a musician and a person that's not, in my opinion. You know, like there's a drive inside of you that just won't let it go, that just needs to express itself, no matter what.
Rose. That's awesome.
Yes. And I'll just breaking up with a band is it's like breaking up with several people who you're madly in love with and you hate them. And I remember I have a memory of when one of my favorite bands I was in was Jekyll Switch, and when I left Jekyll Switch I remember talking with the guitarist who we never saw eye to eye, but my God, I love what he did. And we were really good friends, but we just musically couldn't gel. And that was part of the attraction of the band, is that the fucking flames on that stage were just great. And I remember he said, and we were sitting in a cafe, and he said there's one worse thing in the world than being in Jekyll Switch, and that's not being in Jekyll Switch. And I went, Jesus Christ. And at that fucking moment, Pyramid Song by Radiohead came on. And it, you know when something, a heartache, when that your heart breaks and something stamps it, and every fucking time I hear that fucking song, I'm sitting across the table from Matthew going, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Fuck you, Radiohead. So this is another interesting thing is that what the fuck is wrong with your brain? That you have to do this thing, that you're cerebral cortex demands giving you solutions to the universe in the form of music. But anyway, I want to bring it back to this thing of, at what point do you stop or change direction? You know, at what point do you say what you want to get out of it is not working anymore? Because, you know, deriving your income from music is, Frank Zappa said that music is the greatest hobby in the world and the worst profession. Once again, Frank Zappa perfectly fucking nailed it. Because you can't experiment, and you can't really do shit for shits and giggles, because time is money. And you are one step ahead of your audience, and you're actually one step behind your audience, trying to figure out what it is they want. But that's a bigger conversation I don't want to get into right now. What I want to talk about is, at what point do you say, how do you know with a clear mind it's time to walk away from this, or drastically change the fucking thing? Because understand, my higher motive for this is that if you're not there now, you will be within the month, because we go through this all the time. So this is a form of counsel and sharing that heartache. Maz, what you got?
Hello. So I don't know if I can speak much to like when to end or drastically change it, but I know that we were talking about like what drives you to like use music and make music, even if it's not necessarily for an audience or to get famous or anything. And I know that for me, I was at a point in my life where I just had horrible communication and was becoming an adult, and like the worse my thoughts, the more that I kept my thoughts to myself, the more they negatively affected myself and the people around me. And I just got to a point where I said, like, fuck it, I have to make these thoughts into songs. That's the only way I can like continue with my life right now. So that's because I have the standards that I have for myself. I was like, they're not just going to be songs, they're going to be like, I'm going to make this a theatrical production. So that's how I got around to trying to make my album. And I think if anyone's getting to a point where they are trying to figure out how to end or branch off or reinvent what they're doing, I feel like they have to come back to what brought them to it in the first place. And just like take away all the bullshit of like what you think things should be or what you think they shouldn't be, and just like reconnect that initial spark of what brought you there. And like there's a book called The Artist's Way, and she talks about being an artist, you're basically like dealing with your inner child. Like your inner artist is your inner child, and they have childish needs, and you have to like nurture that person and take them out every week on an artist date where you're like having fun and like getting in touch with the artistic spirit in that way. So I feel like that's a really important thing to do as artists. So yeah, that's what I got.
Thank you. I really wish I could take my little artist out for once a month. I should try harder. This is a mental health thing. I should try once a week. That's a great idea. Rose.
I think that the time to put things down, it was very clear to me, actually, to be honest. Like with my old band, as much as I had invested into it, important as it was to me, you know, even it broke my heart to stop making that music with that band. But at the same time, you know, just like any relationship, if you see that this relationship, this band, this choice is leading to harm for yourself, you know what I mean? That's really the biggest sign, like when you're taking damage instead of gaining, satisfaction from it, you know what I mean? And everything is just, fraught with pain and like misunderstandings. It's just like I was telling a friend the other day that like they were talking about like connecting with another person and everything. And I was saying that, they were like, what's going on with this person that I just met? I thought that they wanted this, and then I showed up to surprise them, and then they didn't even want to meet me, And I said that's because they wanted the fantasy. They didn't want the actual you. And you have to accept that, and you have to keep moving, you know what I mean? Because really real true affection doesn't come with so many strings. It shouldn't be so difficult. And that's the same thing that you should ask yourself and tell yourself when you're working with people. If you're working with people that are very toxic, if the situation's like super fucked up, you know what I mean? But you're still staying together because you're like, well, I put all this time into it. I invested all of this money into it. We've been in magazines together. We've done this and that. We have this big show coming up. You know what I mean? And I'm going to lose that opportunity to play in front of like thousands of people. But what's going to be the cost of that? And you have to weigh it, and you have to really think about it. You have to really think about like, hey, is this actually worth it or not? Am I coming to harm for myself, for my psyche, for my mental health, and even your physical health? I had a friend who was in a band where the bassist, she just kept starting trouble. She would get into fights with people at the club. She would get into fights with the manager at the club. They would constantly get thrown out of clubs because she was always on drugs. She was always doing crazy shit. You know what I mean? She was always hanging around with people that also did crazy shit because they were also on drugs. You know what I mean? And it just got to be this situation where it was intolerable. And they were actually on tour, and he just freaking left her there. He was like, you know what? Find your own way back home. I'm out. I'm done with you, And I've heard this story, versions of this story from multiple bands at multiple levels of success, where, it's like they just end up like being on a tour is definitely the biggest stress test of like, can you make it as a band together? Because there is nothing more uncomfortable than driving for hours and hours through places that all look the same, eating terrible food, being dirty, you know what I mean? And then, rolling your stuff into this little club and hoping that there are people there and that you have enough money to pay for your gas and, maybe a little bit of food. Maybe you can actually eat at Waffle House this time instead of eating like, chips, So yeah, it's the ultimate stress test, and it's the ultimate test of like, can you get along with these people? Is this really worth it? And that's the question that you have to ask yourself. If you're wondering, if everything is becoming very difficult, that's a good sign that that person is not a good person for your band. You know what I mean? Or for you to be around. My old band, I had like at least, I don't know, like we were a rotating roster monster, as they call it. And we had so many people come through, you know what I mean? Because they couldn't get along with other people in the band, or they just didn't have the same level of passion that we had. And everything is just experimentation and figuring it out. We're all just figuring it out. So give yourself a little bit of leeway and be kind to yourselves. You know what I mean? And, and be realistic about what you're expecting from other people, because again, they're doing this because of their passion as well. You know what I mean? Most of the time, if you're a smaller band, you're not getting paid. You know what I mean? You're not getting paid enough to actually like pay your members of your band. You're putting that money right back into your show. You know what I mean? Getting better equipment, or getting better slots, or paying for advertising, or whatever. You know what I mean? You're not actually like, nobody's getting a paycheck in my band. You know what I mean? And that's hard. You know what I mean? It's hard to continue to work when there is not a guarantee of a reciprocal amount of money or fame or whatever to balance it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, is this really worth all of this effort that I'm putting into it? I don't know. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
Thank you. I want to put a pin in the thing about fantasy, because that's a really important point. And secondly, I will just say, if you ever work with somebody who has an addiction, walk away from them immediately. Immediately. Because they will spread chaos and psychological fucking head fuck disease to you and every single person who they come into contact with. Get them the fuck out. There's no place for pity. There's no place for looking after them, or maybe they'll change. Because as soon as those fuckers turn up to a gig, or a studio, or potential management, shit's gonna go bad really quickly. And I just want to say a big hi to Lockie and Diana and Dr. Karen and Megamorph, and Shay is screaming at me in the background. Resi, what you got?
Carl, the more we talk about this, the less I believe in the idea of quit. It doesn't seem to fit in with, you are a musician, it is part of you, you are a creative. I think I get all the, if this is turning into self-harm and is destructive, you can put it aside, but music comes back to me. Speaking as somebody who hasn't put out an official release in a decade for exactly those reasons, I get the vibe of why do this? I get the vibe of what is the point of how difficult this is versus how much I get from it. But we're not talking about people who are, have Teamsters relying on them for a paycheck for this tour. We're not talking about people who necessarily even have a label expecting certain things. We're talking about people who can do anything they fucking want in the sonic space, in the personality space, in the creating space. And you don't have to do it today. If today is bad, think about tomorrow. And sometimes that's the hope that keeps it going.
Thank you. So also my question is, you can try a different, you can go on to a different project. Because some people do give up music. I don't know if they're happy or not. I can't speak on their behalf. But, I'm talking about flogging a dead horse, for want of a better term, but you know what I mean. Ivan? And I'm really appreciating what everybody's saying here. This is, there's a lot of truth going on here. Ivan?
Yeah, Rose really kind of brought it into my mind. Watch out for the investment paradox, or the investment fallacy. It's a psych thing, or I'm so invested in this thing that I'm doing that I can't quit because I'm already so invested. If I just go a little further, it'll get better. Usually, it's one of the ways that you get roped into a cult. So I guess don't let that happen to yourself. And at the same time, like Razzy's right. And being an unaffiliated musician is about the most freeing thing I've ever done. Why would I ever think to stop doing that? I'm in the luxurious position of, I don't have to please a label. I don't have to please a manager. I don't even care if the audience is pleased. What matters is if me and my guys are in the band are pleased. If we're happy with ourselves, we will attract other people that are happy as well. And it doesn't need to be lots of them. It just needs to be ones that actually are made happy. And like, are we doing music or are we doing magic? I can't tell the difference.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Does anybody else want to throw anything else in? Another question? We want to keep going on this? All right, I'll just start talking. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna have a quick look over here, see what's going on in Twitch land. Thank you. Okay, so who's going? I'll see you, Rob. You rock, mate. Thank you for being part of this. Yeah, So you are going to come to terms with this. You are going to face this. You might even be facing it right now. You might, as I said before, it could be a bad review. It could be a drop in interest. It could be this new song is not working, which is the worst thing in the world, is when the new song doesn't work. You want to kill yourself. And you want to give up. So be aware of whatever triggers you. And I think also it's important to say it's difficult going into a band with goals, because bands don't really, music is beyond goals. Music is like the juice of gods, and the goals are always changing. And I don't know, it's the goal to make you feel good. I haven't met a musician who feels good about their music or feels good about fucking anything, because they don't. They're a depressed bunch of fucks. Not as bad as comedians, but nevertheless, they are quite depressed. Forever unhappy with what they're doing and everybody around them. And, yeah. So, and they say it's therapy. Well, dude, your therapy ain't working, man. Because you're still a very depressed sack of shit. And you hate your therapy. So, I don't know. I say if your brain outputs music, then that's it. Your brain is going to always output music. If you're a 15-year-old, when you were 15 and you wanted to make music and be a rock star or whatever, when you're 65, you will still want to do music. What you want to do, if it's in you, it's in you. I always think of the movie Pi, where he tried to drill out the part of mathematics in his brain. Anyway, so I think it's important for you to, so many good points have been brought up here. And there's going to come a time where you may need to look at your project and go, well, if I'm not going to give it up, I might start a side project, and I might start, just in case this one falls through, at least I'm not starting with nothing after a horrible breakup. Yeah, Rose.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That, there's definitely, I feel like any artist, whether you're a musician or a painter or an illustrator or a filmmaker, whatever you are, I feel like that's a really big part of all artists' struggle, which is to actually appreciate your own success, and to measure it as success. And be like, yes, this is the best music I've ever written in my life. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel about my new band. I really feel like it's the best music that I've ever written, and I'm very proud of it. And that keeps me going, And it's very hard for me sometimes to like myself as a person. And so to be able to say that, it took a lot of introspection, and it took a lot of time to get to a point where I can be like, no, I'm happy about this. I'm proud of this. This fucking rocks. You know what I mean? No matter what else happens, I feel like I really put in 100% of the effort that I could possibly put in. You know what I mean? And that's it. You have to be willing to accept that. You know what I mean? You have to see the good in yourself, as well as the issues that you have.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to interrupt really quickly. I have a cat issue. Rose, can I then pass you on to moderate and to pass around the love? I'll be back.
You got it. All right, y'all. So, yeah, anyway, That's how I feel about it. I think that it's important to that if you reach a point where you can no longer do that, you know, where everything is overwhelmingly just negatives and you don't have any positives to balance it out, that's when you have to decide, okay, I might need to start a new project. I might need to start a side project. I might need to switch up who's in my band, you know, whatever I have to do, but something has to change. Something's got to give to progress, you know? So yeah, anybody else got any questions along that route? Anybody? Raise a hand if you have a question. All right, I'll just keep going. But yeah, I think that this is just such a common thing for everybody. Whether you're, you know, I know some of the most amazing. I'm in a group that's similar to this, with these insane artists, some of whom I've like, you know, followed forever, and they all have this same struggle too. What you got, Ivan?
You know, the idea of side project, you know, I couldn't imagine just doing main band work and then just doing that. Like I have to do something other than that as well. And I think working on, because they're both wildly different from each other. And I think that they both, you know, by doing that, they're both informing each other and making me better at making music. You know, it's like got the like hardcore, more witch, more house, industrial band stuff, and then my well, I don't know what you'd call it, it's something between David Sylvian and me being shitty on the other side. You know, both sides just keep getting, you know, each new thing I write is actually noticeably better than the last thing as a result, since I really started doing that on a regular basis. And I've been super happy. And you know, it's causing me to make, you know, everything I write starts as an experiment. You know, how's this gonna work if I blah? And you know, like right now, the latest experiment is, how's the whole song going to come together if I start by just writing the chorus? So work from the inside out instead of front to back, which like everybody I know has been like, oh, I always work front to back. You know, start at the beginning, end at the end. What are you doing? It's like, well, what if the chorus is just really fucking good, and then you expand out from the middle there? Because like that's an experiment worth trying, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you. Sometimes mixing it up is super important. What you got, Rozzy? I see your hands up.
I'm just psyched the beautiful little kitty is on today. She's adorable.
She's the loudest mind-manipulating psychopath you've ever met in your life. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled.
I know how they are. I was just watching an interview with Alex and Getty from Rush right before we jumped on to a newer one that I hadn't seen. And they have alter ego habit, and one of their alter ego bands was called the Fabulous Men, and they were just telling a little story about when their producer at the time, Terry Brown, was on the phone with his mom for too long at the studio. They started jamming in this other context, and I think the point of it was that led to the synth album of theirs, Signals, which was like a whole other persona for them and was met with a lot of weird criticism, but it was, you know, a very different, almost a side project that bore fruit as their main thing. And it has some of my favorite stuff of theirs on it, so at least successful in my and their other fans' eyes.
Thank you. Thank you for taking over, Rose. Wow, Rezzy, I would never pick you as a Rush man.
Lifelong.
Really?
I can't get away from them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
I never picked that. So what are we talking about here? Get me up to speed.
I mean, side projects and keeping your sanity and
all right,
never quitting.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Brandon, and thank you, Rose, for helping me out there. Braden. I know.
Right.
Sorry.
What kind of on the the subject of not quitting, I was, for the longest time, just kind of found myself just in a huge rut creatively. And, you know, I'm like, okay, well, what if, is it a new synthesizer? Is that going to do it? Or is it a new plugin? Or is it this, that, and the other thing? And none of that shit was working. And so I sat down, I'm like, okay, what is it that you know, what am I doing here? What am I chasing? Like, what sound am I trying to figure out how to make? And what am I using to make it? And since, you know, working Ableton's my DAW, so I just kind of decided, I was like, well, let's really start to figure out what we can do with Ableton, and just learn. Made it a focus to just learn the shit out of it, and it opened so many things up. You know, just using the native plugins that come in Ableton, because otherwise then you're just like paralyzed by even more choices. But just the functionality of things, and like how learning to work in a more nimble way than I was before. And there's, you know, all kinds of resources out there, but a lot of it was like getting on like YouTube and just watching people will stream like, okay, I'm going to make a track in 2 hours, whatever. And just like kind of like watching what other people do, and you just pick up so much stuff. And that really helped a lot. All of a sudden I started finishing songs, which was, you know, I had like a folder with like 50, you know, things that were just clusters of ideas, but they were never, ever going to get finished before, because I just didn't really, you know, I couldn't figure out how to make decent bass, you know, so I was never going to be happy with that. So I would always be trying to, you know, spend 10 hours at a time trying to make this bass that you can hear on your phone and in the car, and not just on your studio monitors, whatever. Just learning things like that. And that sounds dull, but it's all those little technical tricks that just will enhance your creativity, I felt, because I wasn't devoting so much time trying to troubleshoot these issues with these things, or, you know, learning how to chop up a sample in an interesting way or whatever. You know, shortcuts, those kinds of things, hotkeys, just cutting out all the fat from like your workflow, where you can just get in there and start having fun instead of just like, you know, just banging your head against these ideas that aren't going anywhere. And but that was a huge thing, was just, you know, learning whatever it is that you make music on. Just dive deep, and the rewards, they still haven't stopped coming. So, you know, and there's always something cool to learn. I learn something every time I watch somebody else do something else. It's just, you know, it's pretty cool. And talking to y'all, you know, that's helped a lot too. Got a lot of cool resources, and ideas, things to look up and chase. So thanks for all that.
Thank you, Braden, and thank you, everybody. I echo the thanks. Alex, I want to talk about ruts in a minute.
To be honest, I think I'm a bit weird in that negative reviews or like feedback doesn't really impact me that much negatively compared to what I think about myself. Like if someone else says, oh, your song is shit, I think that's like, I like that the antagonism sort of brings me forward, that I have something to fight, that I feel something. Way too often I just feel like everything sounds like undefined, and I feel nothing, or I don't feel what I want to feel, and everyone else says, yeah, it's fine. And I think if someone says, yo, that's bad, I feel like, you asshole, I'll show it to you. And I really love that it brings that forward. And another note is, I often don't mind negative feedback from my friends, because I know, okay, this friend likes shoegaze, this one likes weird electronica, this one likes black metal. What does my black metal think about my friend think about the song? What does my weird electronica friend think about the song? And so I get a feeling about what qualities people like and what qualities other people don't like, and maybe what kind of people would like that track or whatever, or this snippet in my case. So I think you don't you should go away from it's universally good or bad, more to what do certain kinds of people enjoy in that song and what do other people not enjoy in that song. So it's like more, it's like an alignment chart or like a character spreadsheet in your pen and paper games. So that's the way I think about it.
Thank you so much. Rose, I want to go in after you.
So that was actually a really good topic to bring up, Alex. And that's a very good skill to have as a musician or as an artist is, you know, the ability to take that criticism and turn it around and make it into a strength instead of, you know, boo-hoo-hooing it and feeling sorry for yourself and stuff. And I have a story that relates to this. So I, in my other persona as a circus performer, competed at the Apollo. I don't know if you guys know what the Apollo is. It's a historic venue in Harlem, New York, where some of the biggest stars in the world, you know, have performed, and it has a lot of history to it. And it's really important to me as a person of color that I got to perform in a place like that. So I competed. I went to the super long audition to get in. I got in, and I won. I won at the Apollo, actually. I won third place, but I still won. And the experience was harrowing because honestly, I had never experienced this as a circus performer. As a circus performer, the crowd is always excited. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, you know, you're doing something crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to put smiles on people's faces. People are going to get into it. No matter how jaded they are, they're going to like it. You know what I mean? They're going to cheer because it's crazy. It's, you know, circus is making impossible things look easy. It's making painful things look beautiful, you know? And that's what makes it so magical and so awesome. So anyway, at the Apollo, it is the opposite situation. You know, they are actively encouraging people to boo you. And I have never been in an experience like this before in my life, right? Like, they give a little demonstration. And if you suck so much that everybody's booing you, a guy comes on the stage with a little broom and sweeps you off the stage like you're garbage. Okay? Like, that's how heavy it is. That's how hardcore it is, right? So they actually coach people before the competition even starts. They're like, all right, guys, if you like them, we're gonna cheer. We're gonna get it on the meter and stuff. And if you guys boo too much, then these people are out. They're gonna, you know, we're gonna hook them, gonna take them off the stage, right? And that's humiliating. And it was crazy because as we're waiting to go on stage, we're like right by the side stage, you know, we're listening to people get booed. And I was like, shit. I was like, oh no, I've never been in a situation where people would boo me, like, as a circus performer. As a musician, sure, of course. But as a circus performer, it's never happened. So it was new to me. And I was like, am I going to be intimidated? And I saw a lot of the other people that were ahead of me. They were starting to get shook by it. They were like, oh, fuck. You know, like, oh, man. You know, and some people that were really confident before we started, they didn't even make it because they got so shook by hearing those boos. You know what I mean? Hearing that negative stuff out loud. And what I learned about myself is that when people boo me, I will continue just to spite them. You know, like, absolutely. There is a petty part of me that is like, oh, really? Oh, you want to boo me? You know, because I knew that I was about to do something insane. You know what I mean? Like, I know all the points in my circus act. You know what I mean? Where I know that I'm going to get a pop regardless. You know what I mean? I don't care how much you hate me. Once I do this thing, you must give me respect because you've never seen anybody do that before in your life. You know what I mean? Hands down, period. That's the end of the story, right? So the crowd there, because a lot of those people are there for their friends, they are booing you not necessarily because you even suck. They're booing you because they want their friend to win, right? So it's a unique situation in that, like, you're not only are you getting judged, but you're getting judged unfairly.
You're
by
getting
people who-
sabotaged.
Yeah, you're getting sabotaged. You're actively being sabotaged by the audience, right? So this is like the most crazy situation I've ever been in with an audience, right? So I'm there, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like backstage, I'm like, all right. And every time that our act slowed down even a little bit, you know what I mean? People would start, boo, 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 you know? But I knew all of those little intermediate transition moments in our act are leading up to something insane, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, you want boo me? You want boo right now? All right, I got you. And I would just do something so fucking crazy that they'd be like, yeah, oh shit, you know, like they couldn't not react to it, you know. And I think you have to carry that same kind of energy when you're performing anything, you know. Like take that negative shit, take those, you know, because you're gonna get negative stuff. The minute that you start marketing yourself and, you know, putting yourself out there and stuff like that, you know, I have some screenshots that are like painful, you know, of people just like really being very malicious towards me specifically because they don't like it that I'm a girl that sings heavy music and they don't think that it's okay for me to do it. So they have all of these like really fucked up opinions that they're just like spouting all over the place. I'm like, you don't even know me. Like, why are you saying these things, you know? And again, despite, you know, the little spiteful, petty person inside of you can sometimes be your best friend in a situation like that. Because there's a part of you that's going to rise up and is going to be like, you know what, motherfuckers? You're going down. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you think that you got my number? You think that you know who the fuck I am? You don't know shit. And then you just fucking blow their fucking faces off. And that's what I got to say about that. That was my experience.
Thank you. It's really interesting also, like, because I've received some really malicious, spiteful reviews that are unjust. And it really sucks when I know those people or I've helped those people. And that's happened more times than I care to remember. I was luckily started my music in Sydney. And in Sydney, they want to kill you. And they love you if you want to kill them back. And it's funny that when I came to the US, because people in Sydney would come right up to the stage, cross their arms, and just, you know, let you know that you're shit. And it was really, you know, they'd shout you down and stuff, and you had to shout back. And then when I came to the US, crowds were so friendly. You know, you walk on stage and everyone goes, woo! And it's like, what did I do right? Anything. And people were so really very, very nice and very friendly. And it's interesting that sometimes I feel like I've lost. I always try and remember, you know, if this show is in Sydney, how would I be doing this? Or Melbourne. Christ, Melbourne. You know? They don't, you know. And I'm sort of really grateful that happened because the music was so angry. And it was just like there was this wall of fucking, and you had to punch and smash your way through it. Anyway, I want to talk about ruts really quickly, unless anybody else wants to bring something else up, because it strikes me that the thing about being a musician and increasingly in the electronic age is you become very analytical. And the thing about your brain is that an analytical mind falls into ruts really quickly because of process. And we all want and need process. We crave process. If I leave you guys alone for 5 minutes, you'll be talking about databases and Excel spreadsheets. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. And you'll listen to fucking Rush and Frank Zappa, and you'll be talking about Excel. Oh, yes, you will. And what that means is that your brain has a way of working. And, you know, we were talking briefly when I came in, you know, we were talking about trying to break that, I believe it's calcification. Dr. Karen is in the Twitch, and Dr. is actually a brain expert. That's called a brainologist. I think it's that there is the neural pathways start to calcify. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Karen. And you have to physically break those connections to try something different. And as I was sharing before I came on, we started this, is that I grabbed a sample of a piece of classical music, and it was, this long, 4 seconds long, and in it went from D, A, F sharp, F. So if you know about music, D, A, sure, that's a fifth. F sharp, okay, it's a major. F, whoa, now it's a minor. What's going on here? And when I got that thing and put it in the sampler and added some nice woogie woog bits, and played it under a cycle of chords, it added this really lovely thing that I would never have come up with, because I don't like fucking around with major and minor. Don't like that sharp 9, because I'm so here. But because I've got this thing, it added this mood to the track that I would never have done. So I want to, if you guys would like to, I would like to talk about breaking these cycles, and what's something that you like to do or you're interested in doing, or da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Jam. Alex, how's your pizza?
It was only not deep fried, opposite.
Deep pan.
It was a cold pizza. It was a frozen pizza, so it wasn't like the best thing. But
you stuck it in the oven, right?
No, of course not.
You didn't?
What? Who does that?
What was it one of those €1 pizzas?
No.
The fucking the €1 pizzas were the best, and then you just put extra stuff on them. They were fucking choice, mate.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Enough about pizza. I think we need to talk about pizza more often. Go. Talk to me.
I think you're right that in some of my best works I did when I had no time to think. I just did things. Some of the synth patches where I was like collaborating with a guitarist friend, and I didn't have much time to come up with the best synth patch in the world. I just needed something that had the vibe, and I had to go da 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 da, and it just worked in the moment because I knew my synth, and I just went by intuition. And I think sometimes when I'm by myself, I'm like thinking, and nothing comes of it. And but unfortunately, I don't know how I get there without being in a strict deadline. Because if I'm in a deadline, I usually don't have enough time because I procrastinate too much. So, but I think being in the moment and being in the flow is super important, especially for me.
Can I ask you a question? Do you find that when you spend a lot of time thinking, your brain goes round and round and then just locks?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I have that problem as well. Can I get a show of hands? Does anybody else have that problem? Okay, well, it looks like Rezzy's the one who's uncool. Rezzy's, wow, yeah, you're out, man. You're not with the cool kids. Dr. Karen just talked about neuroplasticity. Which is a very good point. Yeah, but that's something that I find that I think about. Like, I like to think about music before I do it. I like to think about, it's like Jackie Chan fighting Donnie Yen. I mean, not Jackie Chan, Jet Li fighting Donnie Yen in Hero. They thought about the fight and then they did it. But whereas I just kind of stop. Everything goes, hey, and it just stops. Rose, so don't overthink is what? Pizza. You're muted.
But sorry, when I need to get out of a rut, which totally happens all the time, I will usually do the stuff that inspires my music in the first place. So I'll watch horror movies. You know what I mean? I'll just listen to some music that I don't usually listen to. So that kind of shakes my brain up a little bit. You know what I mean? Just stir that shit the fuck around until you get an actual cohesive, good idea, you know? And sometimes I'll just, just be like, all right, I'm going to just record you playing this part. And Alex, one thing that I have for you is that if deadlines are what helps you actually get over whatever executive dysfunction you have that's keeping you from writing, you can give yourself deadlines. You can be like, okay, well, I'm going to give myself until Wednesday to write a verse. You know what I mean? Give yourself small, achievable things that are deadlines. And then that way, you'll slowly but surely get your song done. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be like, oh, wait, I have this deadline. You know what I mean? Like, the deadlines don't have to be imposed by other people or by circumstances. You can impose the deadlines upon yourself. And that helps me sometimes because I am also a procrastinator. And I will fucking procrastinate to no end. I will do absolutely anything to not do what I have to do if I don't want to do it. You know, like if it's not something fun, oh man, I will come up with any other task to do.
Thank you. Alex, and I also just want to, because everybody, I have Alex's address. So every month, Alex, on the first of every month, you're going to drop a new track, or we're going to send you something in the mail. It probably won't get through customs, though.
Yeah, I suppose not. Okay, I hope the remix for Julius counts as the first track.
Who? What? Yeah, yeah, remixes. Yep, sure. Do it. First of every month, you're dropping a new track. Does anybody else hear Shea right now? Jesus Christ. Rezzy, what you got?
Totally forgot. Pizza, cats, deadlines. Totally lost it. Last exchange. Let me think of something real quick.
Sounds like a novel.
Yeah, there we go. Well, anybody needs a writing prompt? Believe it or not, I have plenty of other problems, aside from thinking myself into a rut, which doesn't happen as much. But interestingly, giving yourself, Rose, what you were just saying to Alex, giving yourself a deadline is something that I think we might have hit on one of the things I personally struggle with most out of everything we've talked about today. And I don't know if anybody has any other ideas or words to throw at that kind of vague topic, but finding ways to even get at where the deadline should be, you know, sometimes that's where the feature creep sets in.
May 1.
Oh, that's the deadline?
That's your deadline. May 1.
Okay.
Do you like how I raised my voice and everything? No! No, you're not negotiating this. This is a deadline.
Where's the...
There is no deadline, yes. May 1. Oh, look at you sitting squirming on your seat. Look at you.
No, it's uncomfortable.
May 1. May 1. You have 2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks.
I was going to shoot today, and I know exactly what your deadline is for now, but it's kind of rainy, so maybe I'll just shoot
1.
anyway.
Wake up earlier. I'll tell you, man, if you wake up 2 hours earlier every day, because, like, when you go to bed late, what are you doing? You're watching dumb shit on fucking Netflix. Go to bed 2 hours earlier, go for a walk, go to bed 2 hours earlier, and get up 2 hours earlier. 2 hours. Well, Ivan really doesn't like this one, does he? And stop smoking, Ivan. Stop smoking and dye your hair and get a job.
It's as if you're in California, and when I was in California last week, I was exactly where you were. I was up 3 hours earlier, mysteriously. I was taking walks for coffee in the neighborhood.
There you go.
Must be something to it.
Yes.
East Coast, West Coast.
Yes. 2 hours earlier because your brain works different in the morning, and my brain works better at putting stuff together. All the crazy thinking and shit that happens at night, but when it's putting stuff, hard fucking lock shit, it's in the morning. 2 hours every friggin' day, and you're gonna have a track ready for me and everyone else, because if they don't, they're letting you down. They're not your friends. They're letting you down. They say they love you, but they don't. They're letting you down.
On it.
Brayden, hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me slowly. Hit me quick.
Hit me quick. For Alex, to just kind of like the back to the getting out of rut things. There's buy an egg timer, just like a little stovetop egg timer thing, and give yourself, say, I'm going to make a drum track in 20 minutes and then stop. And that's what you got. And then move on to the next thing, you know, rinse and repeat. Next 20 minutes bass line or however, you know, that's just an arbitrary amount of time, whatever you want to challenge yourself with. And then when you have those, say 5 things or whatever, then say, and I'm going to spend an hour turning this into a song. And then that's what you got. Doesn't matter if it's good. Doesn't matter anything. Just the fact that you're doing it and kind of just like flexing those creative muscles and just keep hitting it. And then soon things are going to, you're flexing those muscles. It's going to get easier and easier and easier. Your reach is going to get further and further and further. And it just kind of helps to get, you know, I guess neuroplasticity. You're building new connections there. And again, things that used to be difficult start becoming easier and easier and easier. And you stop, you know, just kind of like start hopping over things that used to be impossible to cross, or, you know, and I think that translates into like the bigger projects when you're actually working on, say like, you know, Razi's May 1st deadline. You know, just keep flexing those muscles. Little things like that are just, you know, and then pretty soon you're going to turn out a really nice 30-second song.
That's you done? I don't want to cut you off.
Nope, I'm good.
That's brilliant.
Oh, Totino's pizza, the little frozen ones, like $1.50 or whatever. Throw some stuff on there. They're great.
Excellent. I'm all about Trader Joe's because I'm a wanker. Yeah, and they're great because they don't have too much salt. I'm sorry, Rezzy, did I offend you just then?
Pizza, it's, you know, there's gonna be friction.
All right, if you were about to diss pizza, you gotta go.
No. Just there's good pizza, and then there's whatever the hell you're talking about. I'm envisioning Alex eating a frozen pizza on a stick right from the freezer or something. I mean,
you can get frozen pizza on a stick?
I don't know. This is what I'm thinking about.
Can you deep fry that?
Okay, you're onto something.
I'm onto something here.
Yeah.
And cover it in cheese and then deep fry it. Yeah,
Yep.
Let's do that. Okay, I want to pick up on 2 things. One, the egg timer is a brilliant idea. That's good. I like that because it's going to go bing or set your phone. But an egg timer is a new piece. It's a new toy. And if you walk into a studio with an egg timer, that's cool. And people can go, "What's that?" And you go, "That's my egg timer." And they go, "Wow, you're really cool." Another thing is when you do the vocals, don't write them on the synthesizer. Get in front of the microphone and do your thing. And once you've done your vocals like that, do your bass line like that. Hey, why not stop there? Do your drums like that too. Because this instrument here is different to this instrument here. In fact, they're totally different. And if you come up with drums by trying to drum talk and beatbox, it will sound really cool. Do it. Plus, remember, you're going to have a groove because the groove here is much better than the groove here. Trust me. All of us can do that because we spend all day using our mouths and tongues to speak. And then you can record that. Then you can cut it up and copy the groove that's in there and use the groove that is in your mouth. Trust me, it will blow your mind. I had something else to say, but it was probably bullshit anyway. Julius, go. Oh, Vince, we miss you. We hope you're doing okay. I just noticed you in the chat. Julius.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Hello. So whenever I get stuck, and it's mostly when I think I suck and my music sucks and I hate everything, I would sit down in front of my door and say to myself, okay, today I won't be making my music. Today I will be making music for The Prodigy or VNV Nation. And as I do that or start from zero, I will unavoidably slip into my own style at one point. And yeah, that really helps, actually. I don't know if anyone else has done this, but I can really recommend that.
That's a great trick. I love that trick. Thank you. Rose.
I was that the timer thing is great. I do that on my phone all the time. I am very fond of using alarms in general for everything because ADHD. So I am very, very, very easily distracted. So that kind of like pulls me back. It's like, oh no, there's this like alarm going off. Okay, wait a second. What do I got to do? You know? And when you put those limitations on yourself, don't beat yourself up if you don't, if you're not completely done. You know what I mean? When the timer sets off, just know that like, okay, this is the amount of time I have allotted to this thing, and now it's time to do this other thing. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like a shoot for the moon and you'll still end up among the stars kind of situation. You know what I mean? Like just the fact that you're doing it and you're getting out of your comfort zone and you're pushing yourself to complete whatever you have to do and you're giving yourself these deadlines and stuff, you know, it's going to make you produce more, and it's going to make you actually just smack you out of whatever rut you're in so that you can actually complete what you got to complete. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just need that external push, you know? So and that's why I always say have a friend, you know what I mean, that you run stuff past, because they'll get on your ass. They'll be like, hey, you said you were going to send me a track. What happened to that track? You know what I mean? Like, it's helpful.
Thank you. Dr. Karen also says 20-minute time sessions work well to get started. Commit to 20 minutes on getting anything done without a thought beyond that. You can always repeat, but just focus on one 20-minute session. Great advice. Alex.
I forgot to put my hand down, but I think I'll get an egg timer because I think it's better to have like the visual representation, at least for me. And it's not my phone, so I can't slip onto Instagram or whatever.
Yes, and plus the alarm is aggravating as fuck. It's really aggravating. Fuck! Rezi.
I just jumped into this timer thing again last year after being off it. Last week after being off it for a really long time. And if anybody has a suggestion for a title of task with countdown timer next to it in a small floating window or in the menu bar on the Mac, there's just too many to find myself. So one of those like really simple ones that I'm looking for.
I got a really cool app. It's called Egg Timer.
Yeah, okay. I want the name of the thing. Like the
It's called Egg Timer.
Can you make a paper label with the name of your
I
task
can
and
write
stick
on
to
it
that?
with a Sharpie.
Sharpie or dry erase? Okay.
And then I just wipe it out.
I am getting one. I'm going to get a dry erase marker or a white dry erase marker in one of those, and that's going to be my physical timer. I love it.
Well, this is great because anything you do with it is evil because it's black. It's black sand from hell.
That's
from hell itself. There's bits of sinner in there, crushed up sinners and demons. But no, this thing's great because I'll actually sit it beside the modular and do shit looking at it. I got this to try and get out of my endless ruts. Look at that. And it's real glass. With actual sand from hell. Here's Maz. This is a good conversation. Does anybody else have anything about getting out of the rut? Of course, get a new instrument, which is always good, or a new plugin, or if you have a sampler, sample something you normally wouldn't sample, or listen to something you wouldn't normally do, like Indian raga or raga. That shit's insane. Alex?
Go
ahead.
I just remembered that I didn't forget to put my hand on, but I had actually something to say. There are ways to getting your mouth sounds into MIDI. I think Ableton Live has a way where you can say, okay, turn this please into MIDI. And also there is this quite expensive plugin where you have like a special microphone and it turns what you say automatically into synth sounds or MIDI, whatever you want, or drum sounds or whatever.
That's epic.
I don't know how it's called, but I know it exists. And I think if you Google, you find it.
That is very epic. Razzie, it better be good.
Yeah, Ableton Live's audio to MIDI stuff is really good for pitched and rhythmic content. It works interestingly, if not great. And if you listen to Michael Jackson's demos, he beatboxes all of his parts like it's sublime. He'll do these multi-track orchestrations for how to instruct. I don't know, maybe Quincy Jones gets the tapes and tells the musicians. I'm not sure how that worked back in the day, but just listening to some of the demos from the Off the Wall and Bad, it's like a master at work with using his voice dexterously to convey the individual parts. Really cool stuff.
They're insane.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing as well is that when he beatboxed, he'd do bass lines and stuff as well. And that's really, at the same time. And what was curious about that is that it put a really good emphasis on simplicity, the simplicity of the beat. Because that's always a problem as well with people, humans, is you overcomplicate stuff. If it doesn't work, I'll just throw in an arpeggiate, or a pad, or more reverb, or more delay. Long things that are gonna fucking try and hide up the fact that it's not strong. Alex, do they have pizza on a stick in Germany?
I'm not sure. Maybe I have to do an investigation. I think simplicity or lack thereof is something you fall into really quickly with like DAWs and step sequencers, because especially with drum machines you have so many instruments and it feels like a waste not to use them. But if you think how a drummer actually plays, like they rarely play even like 4 instruments at a time, and that's their maximum because they only have so many hands and feet. So I think that's something I try to do more, is like focus on a smaller selection of instruments at a time, drum instruments or whatever. And try to make things also playable. I mean, it's also cool if there's something that goes like really fast, but I try not to overdo it.
2 things. One, if you ever, there's a new thing on YouTube at the moment about a breakdown of a track called Slave to the Rhythm. And if you get a chance, watch it, because the song is absolutely amazing. And the breakdown of it is brilliant. And it's really putting a whole lot of this, into such wonderful... And the way that song breathes is just inspiring. And secondly, Ivan, are you an undercover cop? Because you look like an undercover cop right now. You look like you should be in the Beastie Boys video for Sabotage. I broke Ivan! In fact, if you put on a pair of aviators, I'm going to start calling you the Chief.
Noise.
Special agent.
All right, I'm sorry. Does anybody have anything constructive they want to say? Because we're kind of getting close to time. This has been really good. I'm grateful. Thank you. It went from dark to light. Sabotage is a great track. My God, what a track. What a track. What a track. You try doing that in karaoke and you won't. Or if you do, you won't talk for days afterwards. Why not seductive? Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah, Sabotage is an amazing track. The simplicity of that track is so masterful. It's terrifyingly good. My God. Big beats all the way. And also, speaking about all the way, because that makes me think of Santa Claus, I won't talk about that. Reindeers actually eat mushrooms and hallucinate. That's why they dance. And that's why Santa's reindeers are called Dancer, Prancer, because they're high on mushrooms. Go ahead, Reezy. Let's talk about drugs. Or not.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm going to miss my May 1st deadline because I'm now shopping for hourglasses on Amazon.com. So. That's all. It's cool stuff.
All right. Thank you. Maybe I should do that. Start buy a whole bunch of timers. And
There's these kits of every 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute kind of things. So
wow,
a lot of
20
possibilities.
minutes. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Maybe I should get Angelspit ones, and they yell at you. You're done. They hurl obscenities at you. Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up in the last moments of this thing? Oh wow! Everyone is just so
Just
fucking.
on the topic of the reindeer.
Yeah, it's fair income.
The reindeer. The reason why I sent the reason why Santa's white and red is because of the Amanita white and red spotted mushrooms.
Yeah, I've heard this theory, and plus there's also the Coca-Cola thing, but I believe it is because of the magic mushroom. Because the whole thing, in Nordic lore, people would say they saw deers dancing, and then when they ate the mushrooms as well, they said they saw the deers flying. So it's all about drugs. I wouldn't have Santa Claus in a band. I might have a reindeer in a band, because that would be cool. But it would be on drugs and...
Ivan's listening. Be careful what you talk about.
Ivan the Narc.
Hello, fellow kids. Sami Shaman were pretty well known for their use of mushrooms. Yeah, and they're north of Scandinavia, so they know their thing. They know a few things about reindeer. Also, reindeer is delicious.
Thanks. Also, hallucinogenic mushrooms are becoming illegal in microdosing in the state of California. And I actually have a few friends who have PTSD gone. Thank you, mushrooms. So there you go. I really have nothing else to say. I do. We should raid to MTV TV. So we're going to leave this open and you guys are going to chat and hang out. Thank you for today. It's been really good, really positive. In a dark time. Trying to shed some light and all that. Hey, Diana, if you're there, let's raid. Hey, Diana, are you there? Or have you ducked away for a moment? That's my new song about Diana. Hey, Diana, can we raid to MTV? 'Cause it's really awesome. Boom, let's raid. We're going to MTV TV. Thank you for joining us. Same time next week. And we're going to make rock and roll happen because that's what we do. And you guys fucking rock and let's hang around and chat for a bit. Bye. 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 Bye.